Hello.
There.
Hi. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Nice to meet you too. It's always nice to put a face with a name when you've been emailing back and forth, and it's nice that we can connect this way.
Yeah,
Great.
It's a pleasure.
So, for everybody who's just joining us, I want to say thank you all for tuning in. For those of you who don't know, my name is Rachel Gallagher. I'm the deputy editor at Gray Magazine. And last year, in April 2020, we introduced our virtual design expo as a way to help keep the design community connected in the beginning months of the pandemic. And today we're proud to be continuing those efforts year round with various programming, including showroom tours, new product launches, Instagram takeovers, and Instagram live talks like the one we are doing today. Joining me today is architect and educator Brigitte Shim, co-founder of Toronto-based architecture firm Shim Sutcliffe, who is actually featured in the current issue of Gray Magazine as part of our roundup of top Toronto design. And for those of you who don't know or aren't familiar with Brigitte, I am going to give a little intro, just a little background, and then we'll go ahead and dive into our questions. So Brigitte was born in Kingston, Jamaica, and moved to Canada, where she attended the University of Waterloo in Ontario. And this is where she met A. Howard Sutcliffe, whom she began working with in 1983. And they have a multi award-winning firm now and have really influenced the architecture landscape in Toronto. Brigitte apprenticed with Arthur Erickson and began teaching at the University of Toronto in 1988. And then over the years, Shim Sutcliffe has become one of, like I said, the most awarded residential architecture firms in Canada, and is really known for the Integral House project, which has become one of the most well-known houses in the city of Toronto. Thank you so much for joining us, Brigitte.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So as I mentioned,
I want to say I was invited by AIA Seattle, because you're based in Seattle, right?
Yes, correct.
Yes, in June of 2020, they had kind of a whole design week kind of celebration. And we were one of the keynote speakers for, and I think it was right in the middle of protests that were happening and a lot of stuff going on. So
it was a crazy time here.
It really was, but it was a pleasure to share our work, and it was a really great. It's a very active architectural community, and years ago I had been on the jury for AIA Seattle, and it was an amazing event, incredible organizers, and we actually visited every project that was shortlisted, and it was a really super incredible connection, and I really felt. It was so special to meet so many members of the architectural community when we were there. So,
oh, that's wonderful feedback, and I know AIA Seattle is an incredible organization. They just really care about the community and the architects, and we're obviously proud to be able to know them and work with them as well. So that's great to hear. So, I mean, speaking of awards, last month, the Royal Architecture Institute of Canada awarded you and A. Howard Sutcliffe the 2021 Gold Medal, which is the Institute's highest distinction. Congratulations. Can you kind of talk a little bit about the growth and evolution of your firm over the years? And is there kind of a guiding principle or philosophy that you continually come back to in your work?
It's for a small practice. We're large as 12, but right now we're about 5 or 6 people. So we're not, not big at all. Partly we actually like working on projects ourselves, experimenting. And when you get to a certain scale, that doesn't really happen. And we're really fortunate to work with amazing clients who love architecture. And I feel that we're inspired by nature, by landscape. Work to create, in effect, maybe our projects should feel like a place as opposed to a building stuck on a site with landscaping around it. And so we really work hard to create really rich spatial experiences. And we have,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a tougher climatic in Seattle, so
Yeah.
we work hard to kind of make sure kind of fluid movement between inside and outside, and this kind of architectural journey is really special. And it's not about a building as an object, but it's actually about a kind of experience and a place that you create. And that's sort
Mm.
of drives our thinking, rather than saying, oh, we want this amazing object that's kind of sitting there, you know. So maybe that might be a bit different from other firms. You know, we're not landscape architects, but we really think carefully about how the landscape is kind of integrated into the architecture, because it really matters for us. And
Right.
that's something that we've always thought about carefully. We work a lot with water, winter water.
Mm.
We light and how light enters our spaces, and the way that a section is articulated to really shape a space.
Mm-hmm.
So those that, you know, and then we have, you know, winter is a very long season for us. It's kind of like to, you know, we actually do, when we work with water, we like to have winter water flowing, and it really is quite special in terms of animating and registering these kind of subtle temperature shifts that you might not even know about. But when you see a surface of water, it changes from steam to
Mm-hmm.
mist to ice. And so for us, it's a kind of
Right.
making sure in our daily lives you can register these things and are aware. So,
That's fascinating. It's interesting because I mean, obviously, as you said, the climate here in Seattle is much milder, very different. But a lot of designers and architects here really kind of have a similar approach, where it's, you know, they don't want to just plop a house down. The nature and you know, site are very important. I have not been to the Toronto area, but you know, you've been to Seattle, so you know, the Northwest is very natural, very nature focused. So I think we can totally relate to that approach for sure.
well, having worked a long time ago in Vancouver in Arthur's
Mm.
office, he makes a lot of trips to Seattle, and that whole region of the kind of Pacific Northwest is the same climatic zone. It's the same similar topography, and
Yeah.
feel like it's a kind of very special region of North America, because the growing seasons and the cycles are so much more accelerated than it is out in the east. So
Right, right. Well, I agree. It is a special place. It's my home. So, um, so speaking of nature, actually, I think this is a great segue. In February, your firm released a book about a project that you have been working on, a 5-acre plot on Point William in Lake Muskoka in Ontario.
yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about the project and the accompanying book? You know, I read somewhere that you have been working on this project for quite a long time. It's rare, I feel like, for firms to, you know, do such an iterative process. You know, it's kind of like, okay, we just did this and we're done, but you've been working on it for more than a decade.
Yeah, yeah. So Muskoka, you know, there are actually three spectacular lakes: Lake Muskoka, Lake Joseph, Lake Rosso.
Okay.
They're all connected, so you could actually go by boat between one. They're very large and really stunning lakes, and both Americans and Canadians have been cottaging here for the last 250 years. So a lot of the Americans
Oh,
would actually
wow.
train from Toronto to Gravenhurst, which is the town at the southern end of one of these three lakes, and there would be
Mm-hmm.
steamers that would actually deliver in the groceries and drop people off at different islands. And
Oh,
so this is
wow.
a very long tradition. And
Yeah.
and so our client is trained as an architect but didn't practice architecture, so loves design. And we actually saw the property before he purchased it, and we gave him the thumbs up, and then in the end we had to rezone the whole thing. So when you think at cottage country, but there are a lot of regulations and rules that you have to follow, so we had to literally
Right.
site. And we said, let's start with the smallest building first. So we actually built a boathouse, 2 boat slips, indoor, 1 outdoor, and 640 square feet was the size of the accommodation up above. So not very big. But
Mm-hmm.
but we used it to experiment. It won tons of awards because we were really interested in this kind of robust, heavy 4x4 log construction at the same more sophisticated wood construction. So we worked with local contractors. We built this tiny little boathouse, but it was rethinking what is a boathouse, and it's been published everywhere. It's called the Muskoka Boathouse, and in a way so we did the smallest project first, and in a way our client was a really urban guy who'd never had a cottage. And they basically fell in love with the landscape and the place. And then there was a turn of the century cottage that we were allowed to keep there because it was really old, but we had to keep the footprint and the silhouette. And as long as we did that, so we built a new building because it was really trying to respect the existing building. So
right.
On the vernacular building type, but making it modern. So it's modern on the inside. On the outside, we actually covered the whole building weathering steel. So Corten steel is actually both the roof and all the horizontal sidings that look like clapboard, like a wood siding, are actually steel. So it's a bit of an art project in that it looks traditional, but it's actually made with contemporary materials.
Right.
And then we did and the landscaping and the garage. So in a way, I would say we didn't work continuously for 2 decades, but it was a kind of evolution, and they came to love the site, place. It was central to their whole family, very modern family with, different kind of directions. And so in a way, the is special because it allows everyone to come together and gather in really great ways. So it's become a really important place. And then architecturally, it allowed us to continue to experiment. We worked with the building crew on all projects, which was amazing. Oh, wow. And so the book documents this kind of 2-decade journey. So we actually show all 4 buildings, but you're also seeing the landscape. You're seeing winter. You're seeing these exposed rocks of the Canadian Shield. So we hope that by going through the book, you feel like you visited the Canadian Shield. You actually have entered this kind of very special landscape by these huge freshwater lakes, and hopefully you come away with more than just knowing about these buildings, but really you feel like you've been there and that the landscape.
Right.
So,
right. And it sounds like, it really documents that approach that you were talking about, because you can see, even over a couple decades, like you said, the landscaping, I'm sure it, grew and changed and, was, like you said, different in every season. So.
Yeah, so it was a fun project to do, and we're hoping to do a series of projects, books where we're kind of capturing these projects we've worked on for quite some time. So we have another project in the Toronto Ravine that's, again, a very special landscape. We're just finishing up a project outside of Moscow in a Russian forest that's very special.
Wow.
Working on a project on the east coast of Oahu. It's on the best beach in America, according to Condé Nast, and very, very, again, unique landscape.
So you need to be on site a lot, right?
So in a way, so again, this kind of sense where you go through the book, you're looking at architecture, but the biggest thing you take away is experiencing a specific landscape and a place, and you're seeing how the built form is responding to that specific place.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So your firm has gained, acclaim for its experimental forms, which, obviously, as we talk about, take context into mind. Can you talk about your firm's, signature style and kind of how you grew into it?
So I would probably say we don't have a signature style.
Okay.
I in your earlier question about some of the things that matter to us about light and landscape and the seasons, but I would say we tend to approach each project on its own terms. We don't think about, oh, it's gotta, have one of these, or it's gotta be this material or that material. We really start from zero, and we really try to think about what is the most appropriate thing for this project, this site, this program, this client in this location. Right. And after a lot of effort, I guess our hope is that the building and its landscape kind of fits the place that it's in. You can't divorce one from the other. They kind of look totally fused. And I think it came about from remarkable places. We've been so fortunate, and we've traveled all around the world. And you often are in these places and you go, oh, such an amazing location. This is so beautiful. Too bad about the building that you're looking at. Ugly, and it just doesn't belong in that place. So when you see a building that does feel like it belongs with that landscape, and there's this fusion where the two are better together than apart, you think, wow, that's pretty great. And it can be humble and so simple, but it just feels like it belongs. And I feel it's a tricky thing to strive for. It's kind of like, but we kind of feel like if you kind of, in the end, after all this effort and work you've done, thousands of decisions, the two feel like they belong together, you've kind of done the right thing. So it's not really a stylistic thing of one material or the other. It's more an attitude to really fusing the built form with the specificity of its site. And I think that if you've done your job really well, you've really made a place in the world that people feel comfortable with. And some of it's inside and some of it's outside, but it's actually a place rather than an object. It's a kind of maybe a slightly different emphasis.
No, that makes sense. And I feel like when you go into somewhere like that or are around it, it feels different, you get just, it's hard to even describe, but you just kind of have this feeling like this works, on more than just it being like a pretty building kind of a thing. So as we mentioned, you are an educator and you are currently a professor at the John H. Daniels Faculty of Architecture, Landscape, and Design at the University of Toronto, where you have been teaching for several decades. Does teaching the next generation of architects and designers leave you feeling hopeful about the future? And what would you say are some of the things that your students are focused on or find important when it comes to the future of design?
So in a way, I really enjoy teaching. I feel it's essential to invest time in the next generation because they are our future. I have amazing students from all over the world. I think that's really such a privilege in terms of being able to connect with them. And that I feel as an educator that the questions we ask our students in architecture school should shape the future of our cities. So that paper project, some abstract conceptual exercise, but really it's leading them to a position where when we ask them to do a project in school, the issues that are relevant should actually really address how our city should be, not now, but in the future. And they're in architecture school, it's not like they won't get to the right. And so we have a huge responsibility to be demanding and to really position our students to be the leaders of the next generation. And without asking tough questions about, what should housing look like in our cities? How should address space? And after the last year and a half under a pandemic, public space matters even more than it's ever has to everyone. America. It has so many layers of meaning, and so our students need to be thinking about these issues because then they'll be asked to contribute on a team to design part of a public realm, and they have to really be prepared to think about the right questions. They may not have all the answers. They need to be thinking about the right issues to really probe and question and to make a better future for all of us.
So the future is bright then.
I think it is, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, we chatted a little bit. You mentioned some of the projects that you're working on, but I'd love to kind of close out our chat here, just talking about what's on the boards for the rest of the year, and what are you guys working on that you're really excited about?
So we're really busy. We've been busy throughout the whole pandemic, and we are finishing up some work in Moscow. We have a project in Hawaii that's pretty exciting. And then, we actually live in a laneway in a back alley in the east end of Toronto, and we bought a derelict lot 25 years ago. And out of our kitchen window, we've been looking at the back of a kind of derelict garage for 25 years. And we purchased it, and we're actually designing a new house for ourselves, which will be aging in place, the greenest and most, integrating so many different effects, and it's a kind of revitalization of a kind of derelict building right now. So we're really excited. We'll still keep our old house and we'll build a new house, and we're looking forward to just continuing to experiment on ourselves and for the future in terms of an urban courtyard. What would make it the greenest house in all of Toronto, and how do we integrate all of these existing systems but bring them together to really again a really special place in the city, and take something that nobody else wanted, that's pretty kind of run down right now, and turn it into something really, really amazing. So that's really our next personal challenge, aside from projects that we're doing in the studio. But I feel like each time we've actually experimented on ourselves, the benefit has been so great. We've learned so much, and it's been so enriching, and that we continue to kind of test the limits and what's possible.
That's great. I sense another book in this project.
We'll see. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Brigitte, thank you so much for joining us. It was really lovely to meet you and to chat, and we'd love to stay in touch about your future projects. And if you're ever in Seattle, let us know.
Great. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and continued success with the magazine and all of your great work. So
thank you so much. Have a great rest of your afternoon.
Yeah, bye-bye. Thank you.